This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites, a no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better media host or looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month free. And with that said, enjoy the show.
This is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Will Ospreay, and you are listening to Busted Wide Open. Thank you.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to our Patron Mailbag, episode number 4, where we answer listener questions, our brand new segment broken out from our normal show. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and welcome to the Busted Wide Open podcast. As you said, Nick, this is our listener mailbag episode, and I'm loving these, man. This is where our patrons get to send in their questions, and we get to just relax and answer them, no longer confined and constrained by the limits of a regular show. We got to get to the end of the show. So this is we broke this out, so we had a little bit more time to spend on these and really give some thought and chew on some of the questions that you guys come up with. But if you're listening to this and you're not one of our patrons, then please go over to patreon.com/BWO and sign up, and you too can ask your questions and be featured on the show, and we can respond to the questions that you have for us. And to everyone who's already signed up, thank you guys very much for supporting this show and helping us to do what we do when we do what we do right here on this show.
Yes, guys, if you also want to hang out with us, you can come over to Facebook and search for Busted Wide Open. Give us a like on our Facebook page and send us a join request to get into our discussion group. It is the hub of our operation, and you can find links there to our Discord community where we've got live chats that go on for every show throughout the week, as well as pay-per-views. It's our up-and-coming Discord community. Definitely want to get in there because that is where a lot of the action takes place now, not so much in the Facebook group. We still post a lot of fun memes, great news articles, all kinds of stuff, but if you want to live chat during all the shows, including pay-per-views, that's where the action's happening. So make sure you're getting into our Discord community as well. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast, streaming live, except for this week, on youtube.com/bustedwideopen, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's youtube.com/bustedwideopen. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell so that you get notified anytime we put up new content or schedule new live streaming events. And thank you again, I'll echo Sir Ian Dangerous, to all of our patrons. You are the fuel that helps this machine run, and we're very excited to have this brand new series where we're breaking out your listener questions that you guys get at the $5 tier. Just $5 a month, Sir Ian Dangerous, to be able to ask anything they want to you and I. So where are we kicking things off today?
That's a great question. It's up to you.
I guess I'm leading this game, right?
You're the one who has all the questions. I'm just sitting here waiting to be asked things, and then I will respond in turn.
Yes.
But you're the one. You're running this ship, sir, from your hotel room in Vegas. Please don't get kicked out of your room today. I know they were yelling at you for being too loud yesterday with your booming voice echoing down the hallway. Yes. But
you guys will enjoy that from last night's episode, yesterday's episode that is up there now. Finally got that done. But I'm trying to be a little bit quieter today, if you can't tell from my voice, so keeping things down. Our first question comes in from Jacob Uhas. He asked, including Asuka and Becky, who is the best Royal Rumble winner of all time? And that includes the Rumble match performance / how they won and their Mania feud and match.
I mean,
there's a lot of little stipulations in there.
Yeah, well, but I still think that it actually. So here's the interesting thing, is that for the most of the time the Rumble's been going on, the winner has gotten a title shot at WrestleMania. But there were a couple of, like, the first few, it was either for the WWF Championship or it was for a title shot, but it wasn't at WrestleMania. It didn't become that until 93, I believe. But that's because in 92 was, in my opinion, the greatest Royal Rumble performance, which was Ric Flair. And he went from number 3, the third entrant, all the way to the end. And then he won the WWF Championship by doing so.
Which is where we got the all-time great promo of Tear in My Eye.
Yeah, the tear in my eye. I have a hard time thinking of a better performance than that. Shawn Michaels going bell to bell, certainly. Rey Mysterio in 2006, I think, would be my number 2 pick, because that was a really great one. But yeah, it's hard for me to think of anyone that's better than Flair, because not only that guy was in there working for the entire rest of that match. And on top of that, 92 is my favorite Royal Rumble. I think it's the best Royal Rumble. So in just a lot of ways, I have a hard time picking against Flair on this question. And I'm trying to run down every Royal Rumble in my head, and those are just the ones that stick out. The
Becky one definitely sticks out for me. That's one. If we're talking about modern era where the winner gets a title shot at WrestleMania, Becky's from earlier this year, where she did the run-in. There was also a lot of stuff.
That was fun, but again, like what he said with the match performance, it's like the one where Roman Reigns, right when he was all against one, and they were doing this thing where they wanted to make Roman Reigns the underdog, and he was going to be the first person in, and the odds were stacked against him, and then like 10 people in, he gets injured and gets carted away, and then heroically returns at like number 28 or 29, and everyone was just like, "Oh, shut up! He didn't even work the whole match." You know what I mean? Like, that's not heroic. That's just shitty booking. Make your boy work. Basically, you've got to go out there and work for the whole time to earn our respect. That's what Ric Flair did. That's what Shawn Michaels did. That's what Rey Mysterio did.
And there's not a lot of like selling outside the ring or any of that kind of stuff, right?
Well, but they all those guys definitely had break moments, but not where they were like carted away. And Becky had the whole thing where she was too injured to be in the match, and then she took someone's place and came in at like 30th, and it was like, not as great of a performance. A great moment, a great story, not as great of a performance. So I'm just going to, for the sake of brevity, Nick, I'm going to say Flair. Do you have anyone that you have that you think would go above that?
No, I think the ones that you called out, obviously Mysterio and Michaels bell to bell from a match performance standpoint and how they won. You got to the big three are Flair in 92, Mysterio in 06. 2000?
Mysterio's 06, yeah. 06.
And Michaels. So that's, if we're getting more into the last decade or so, where what he's outlining is how their Mania feud and match ended up. I mean, some of the more recent ones are going to be based on what we were talking about with Becky, but there's stipulations in there where they weren't there for the whole match, and the performance wasn't as good.
Didn't Ray didn't he lose his opportunity? Like, he wanted the Rumble, and then Randy Orton beat him on the way to WrestleMania. Like, he lost the opportunity, and then he ultimately got reinserted, and it was a triple threat.
I'm struggling to remember the details of that. I feel like that was his championship year. That was a long time ago. So it wasn't the 92 Rumble, but I mean, who forgets that one as a wrestling fan? Anyway,
yeah. So, so I actually, I'm going to put Ray at a strong number 2.
Yeah. Definitely, because I mean, he checks off all the boxes that Jacob outlined here in his question. It's probably Ray for all of those things.
06 was, 06 was kind of a crap Rumble. Like the midsection was just flabby, but it started hot, had some good sections, and the end was great. I loved Ray beating Orton at the end.
Here's the difference for me. If you look at the 92 Rumble, what made it great was that all of those guys were working the entire match. They were in there doing stuff the entire match. Nobody was just laying in the corner.
They were there for a long time, yeah.
Yeah, nobody was laying in the corner, letting certain pairings have a moment in the middle of the ring. None of that stuff was going on. Nowadays, when you watch a Rumble or any kind of 50-man match, something along the 30-man match, there's a lot of focus on the current moment that's happening in the middle of the ring. It's not like Stone Cold comes strutting down the ramp and just starts stunnering everybody, So
I know what you're saying. I think that they still had some rest moments in the first one, and they were letting the centerpiece focus in the middle of the match, but it was certainly less so.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's very obviously so.
So it's hard to judge the current modern era Rumbles in the way that we judge how great the 92 Rumble was. They were, in my opinion, they were two just different styles.
Yeah, and to your point, like when they were in the corner, they were certainly working harder. They weren't just sitting there like, stretching the putting the boot under the guy's throat and just stretching the leg. Like Flair was in the corner giving people chops. Yeah. Like they were working.
Luger's
still.
in there beating the shit out of people. A lot more. There's a lot going on in some of those.
Luger.
I'm sorry.
British
Bulldog. Thank you.
Yeah, he did some work in that match too.
So
puffed up. That was the height of his steroid days. He was puffed up like a balloon in that match. Anyway, We digress.
Sorry, guys. It's been a long week.
Rumble 92. I love the Rumble 92. I love it.
Thank you, Jacob, for that awesome question. That's a really introspective one. Makes you think about what you really take away from the Royal Rumble. Is it about the winner or is it about the performance in the match? And
that's
and all of that
one
stuff.
to post in the group too. Like I want to hear what everyone else's opinion is on that too, because like obviously you and I are jaded because we're old men, Nick. Yeah. But I want to hear what everyone else like. I'm sure Cena is going to be some people's, and I'm sure some people are going to call out a lot of different people. Like I'm very curious. Shawn Michaels will probably be in there. I'm sure. I'm curious what other people's are. Stone Cold, that kind of thing. Like Stone Cold sitting up on the turnbuckle, checking his watch. That's one of my favorite Rumble moments too. So
nice. Anyway. Thank you, Jacob. Next up, Will. WWE has acknowledged some of their booking or writing is broken.
They have? They've acknowledged that?
I haven't heard that, but if they have, that's okay. I feel that one big issue currently is that they really use the weekly shows to set up pay-per-views without checking network numbers or profits versus TV profits. I would argue the weekly shows need great matches with feud ends or gimmick matches as much as the pay-per-views. It would be a great way to build mid-card guys and feuds while top guys save the big ones for pay-per-views or special weekly shows. Thoughts on this general fix idea?
So basically, the mid-card guys would have their feuds organically going and finishing on TV, while the top feuds would only culminate at pay-per-views.
Isn't that kind of what we have already? I mean, I see his point.
No,
you don't want to have.
I don't think
so basically
really
not have U.S.
feuds.
title and Intercontinental title matches. You would just have the main belts, the top belts across the tag teams, and the top women's and men's belts be your matches on pay-per-views. But North American title, U.S. title, tag team, women's titles, things like that. I see it. I see his point.
Well, to be clear, here with Will's question here, there's one thing that he's throwing in here I want to point out. He said, why don't we have, what was it? The weekly shows need great matches with feud ends or gimmick matches, such as the pay-per-view. Okay, so he's actually assuming that feuds are going to end, meaning the WWE is going to write a coherent storyline all the way to its conclusion. That right there is a stretch. You're talking about a company that has a hard time figuring out how to end most of their storylines because they don't know where they're going until the end of it.
Right.
They're figuring out as they go. The whole Roman Reigns getting attacked storyline that we just had. What the hell did they do? What was that? And that was Roman now is a top tier mid-carder, right? He's not a top guy. He's still being booked as it sometimes, and certainly more so since the brand split. But for a while there, he was a just under the main event top mid-card guy. They pushed him down a little bit. Deservedly so, because he's still getting better, and frankly, I think we all enjoy him better in that role. But they had no idea where they were going with that.
Right.
And if that had been a feud that they could have paid off, if that had been a coherent storyline that they could have followed, it wouldn't have mattered if it ended on a pay-per-view or on TV. As long as it ended and we were satisfied. Like, let's start with that before we start worrying about when things are ending, because I think that what he's pointing out here is something that is conventional across all media. Is you do the big beats at your season finales, right?
Yes.
If you're doing a show, right? Your big beats, your big main storylines come to a cliffhanger or come to a conclusion at your season finale. Your little things get worked out through the episode, and that's basically what he's saying here. That's just I think common sense storytelling. And in the sense of financially, like if you're building towards a pay-per-view, you actually want all of your storylines to culminate there, so everyone is forced to buy the pay-per-view.
Right.
But the pay-per-view model doesn't really work anymore because most people are getting their pay-per-views on the network for $10 a month. So while yes, they still want us to watch their pay-per-views so that we get the network, it's not the same incentive as before where like they've really got to work to get you to shell out $50.
I mean, you could just go create a new email address every other month and watch the pay-per-view. for
yeah,
your
to get free
for first 30 days, including WrestleMania. Sure. I mean,
and I think I don't know if they've gotten now where they're checking your ISP or not, but I somehow I doubt it. No. But the point is that it's their pay-per-view model is no longer really there, so they could do more of Will's idea here now, more of this the traditional storytelling trope that you could do that more. But again, I think it really comes down to their inability to do that. They just the way that they write, that they're hot-shotting at the last second because of Vince all the time.
And I think the world has changed, and they changed with it in the right way. I've told the story about how, what was it, when Double or Nothing happened at Memorial Day earlier this year, 6 months ago, I actually struggled to spend $60.
Yeah,
I had to sit there on the couch and talk myself into it. So I don't know if there's an appetite.
And you do a show,
and I do, yeah, and I do. So I'm saying that from my perspective. You're absolutely right. Yeah. The world has changed. New Japan and WWE have both changed with it, with their streaming services for roughly $10 a month, and it's changed the way that, like you said, that the way that they would book a pay-per-view in order to drive viewership and pay-per-view buys, right? But I think one of the tragic flaws that they haven't changed is starting at the end and working backwards. What's the outcome you want? What do you like? You mentioned the Daniel Bryan, the Roman Reigns, somebody tried to kill him thing. Had the end game of that been evil mastermind Daniel Bryan, and then they just figured out how to get there,
yes,
then there would have been something in there along the way that would have made that, we could have gone on that journey. But there were no indications. We were just left. We have no idea. And frankly, it ended up with like this handshaking Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns moment, and it really didn't get an end. And now Roman and they're off doing separate things.
And they were trying to get Rowan over, and it didn't get him over. Nope. They tried to get Luke Harper back and interested, and he's disappeared again. Right. So that whole thing is just to me an example of the worst kind of storytelling in WWE, where they don't really have an end game. They don't know where they're going with it, or sometimes it even changes as they're going through it. I don't know if WWE themselves have acknowledged their booking and writing problems, but certainly people who used to work there, Wade Keller gets a lot of those guys on his show. You hear a lot of them on across several podcasts where they're interviewed ex-WWE writers who are like, we have no idea what we're doing.
And even if we did, there's no plan. Vince still has the ability to walk in, tear the show up an hour before the event, and rewrite everything.
Not just the ability, he does it regularly. Yeah. So, I can't imagine working in that environment. I feel so bad for the horde of writers that they have working there in that environment, just based on what I've heard from people who have worked there for years and the environment. And it sounds, obviously, our sample size is people who no longer work there for whatever reason. They don't work there. If people still, people that are still working there, maybe they're happy. The long tenured people there, maybe they're happy doing that. But from the people that come out, even like the ones that are like, I left on my own terms, I don't bear a grudge. They're like, it's chaos, man. That writing system there is nuts. And I think until they fix that, we're going to have stuff like the Roman Reigns storyline happen and more, the Dean Ambrose, where Vince is sitting there going, no, it's hilarious. It's good shit.
Put a gas mask on.
Put a gas mask on him. Put him in brightly colored basketball shorts and call him Shorty G.
You're scared of all these diseased people.
Everyone in the audience has a disease, and you're scared of them. You're scared, kid. You got it? All right, pal. Go out there and give it your best. I don't know why. I don't know why my Vince just turned into Richard Nixon, but just go with it.
I do a lot of presentations professionally, like off the show, and one of the things, I always start with, I tell stories, right? That's what I do when I present technology to people. And we always start with outcomes. What is it, Mr. Customer, that you would like to have happen? And then we figure out a way to get you there. And that's the one thing that for me that's missing is that it's just a writing technique. It feels so haphazard and ad hoc at the whims of a 73-year-old man, however old he is now. Whatever he feels like doing that week is what's going to happen. So all that other stuff goes out the window. Why even have an army of people?
And what's crazy is like some of these wrestlers are some of the best storytellers you're going to find. Right. Like there's a reason why A lot of these guys come out of WWE and go on speaking tours because they're amazingly engaging when they speak, because when they speak, they are able to tell a story in a charismatic way to an audience. If you ever see Jake the Snake speak, if you ever see Jesse Ventura speak, Mick Foley is a fantastic example. He's been doing a whole career of him just going around talking about stuff, usually Hell in a Cell, but they're fantastic orators because they understand how to tell a story, how to bring you along on the process so that you're engaged in everything that they're saying. You're excited about what comes next. You want to hear what they're going to say next. And so that right there, you have a bunch of these guys, theoretically, there who are able to have this talent. What? Use them. Use them. All you need is the beats. And they're going to go out there and they're going to fill in the story for you. Theoretically, that's how the concept, how it should work, right? Yep. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. And again, we're just talking about WWF right now, WWE. There's differences across. Like you said, I'm curious to see where AEW goes with its storytelling. It all varies pretty wildly, but that's in my opinion. I think that Will's right on the idea of the format, but I think it's a deeper problem than that.
It is. It's deeper seated for sure. Thank you, Will, for that question. Really good stuff. Next up, Billy. Just looking at the NXT run, who has the better combination? Was it Strong and O'Reilly or Fish and O'Reilly?
Oh, that's tough, because I do love me some Red Dragon.
So if I'm looking just at stats and NXT run, as you called out, it's going to be Strong and O'Reilly because Fish has been out for the majority of it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with you. I'm going to have to agree with you on that, although that hurts because I really do love Fish and O'Reilly, and I hope they get a lot more time to work and show what they're capable of. They also had one of the best matches against Mustache Mountain. Yeah. But it wasn't like Strong and O'Reilly were putting up duds. They were putting up all-time classics as well. Man, I think right now, because as you said, Nick, Fish has been out for so long, and this is just NXT run. We're not talking about Red Dragon outside of NXT. Right. So that's why I'm keeping this even.
He said specifically just looking at the NXT
just
run.
NXT. Yep.
It's easily Strong and O'Reilly.
Right. I'm going to give it a slight edge to Strong and O'Reilly right now. But Fish and O'Reilly obviously will be doing this for a while longer. So give them some time, and ultimately, hopefully Fish can catch up.
Yeah,
because
ask me that question again 6 months from now, and it's very likely to be Fish and O'Reilly.
It may be very different. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think that's about as clean as an answer we're going to get for that.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Billy. Next up, Eric. Good old Eric Elledge. In honor of Halloween. Oh, God.
Yes.
Oh, this question.
Yes.
We've been sweating over this one for the last few days, Eric. In honor of Halloween.
We have? Which one's this?
In honor of Halloween coming, which one of these things are scarier? Are you ready for this? Which one's scarier?
Okay.
1, Brock Lesnar-sized Hornswoggle. Or 10 Hornswoggle-sized Brock Lesnar's. I start theory crafting in my head about, can he still do all the same moves if he's a smaller version? Is he still as intimidating? Is he still as powerful? In that case, obviously 10 would be.
Is this like ants where when you get like stronger? Or is it like percentage of like your body weight? Like like ants can lift 100 times their weight because they're so small. Like as Brock shrinks, does he get like he can lift more of his relative body weight? So like you got 10 Brock Lesnars, all of who can F5 a truck, but then like Hornswoggle could like barely lift a child, kind of thing.
But he's the size of Brock Lesnar. But he can barely lift a child. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's if that's the case, it's going to be 10 Brock Lesnars. Who cares what size they are, whether they're Hornswoggle size or Brock size?
Dude, I'm going to take 10 Brock Lesnars because Brock Lesnar can break your limbs, right? And Hornswoggle's what, 3'5", 4, like
maybe 4
at
feet
most,
tall, yeah.
maybe 4 at the upper end. Yeah. You give me 3 Brock Lesnars at that height, and like I'm just assuming he's still like like Hornswoggle's got a little bit shorter legs, like his proportions are a little bit off. But I'm assuming that we're just like shrink raying Brock Lesnar. Like we put him in a 1950s sci-fi movie shrink ray, and he just shrinks down, but he's still like proportionally the same with like the huge scary traps and the beady little eyes and the sawed off teeth and everything. Like he's just little Brock Lesnar. I'm still more scared of little Brock Lesnar than I am a full-size Swoggle.
Let me see if I can scare you a little bit more.
Okay.
What if you had like the bottom half as Hornswoggle and the top half as like a normal size Brock Lesnar? Like some weird kind of Frankenstein of the two.
That's like a Looney Tune.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like when he walks, you'd be like that.
Got the giant chest with the little legs that are just running.
Yeah. Well, I'd be less scared of that because I could outrun him.
Yeah, that's true. Or could you? I don't know.
His little legs couldn't keep up with that giant upper body. Well, he'd probably be pulling himself along by his big arms. You know, that's a terrifying image.
Oh.
No, Brock is coming for you. Brock is coming for you. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like a gorilla where he's just kind of like, you know, putting both hands down, and swinging his lower body through, and then, you know, planting with two legs and then swinging his body through.
Oh god, that's terrifying.
That's a terrifying image. Nick, why would you do that?
God.
It's funny because they've got guys who are kind of like that in Borderlands. If you play video games at all, if you play Borderlands, especially the new one, they've got little people in that, and then they've got like these huge Goliath dudes with like tiny little legs but like enormous upper bodies. And all I can think of when I hear this question is like next time I see those guys, I'd be like, it's Brock Lesnar Swoggle. It's Brock Swoggle. Oh God.
Les Swoggle.
I'm gonna shoot him even fast. Les Swoggle. No, that's a whole different thing, my friend.
Yeah.
That's
for a different podcast altogether.
Oh man.
Eric, thanks for the question, man. That's a lot of fun. And as much as we love scary stuff in Halloween, that's really timely. Thank you.
I love scary stuff in Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Horrorpalooza, another horror podcast streaming now.
Subscribe where you find podcasts. Next up, Josh. We are getting a nice resurgence in wrestling with AEW starting, NWA coming back, and New Japan making a move into the States. If you guys were to start a new promotion, oh God, what would be your main areas of focus, and what would you do to set yourself apart from all other companies?
Oh, Jesus.
You know what? That's a bonus episode.
That's a whole bonus episode right there.
So, Josh, I have a proposal for you. Ian,
wow.
you stick with me on this one.
Okay.
Josh, I'd like to do that if you're okay with it. I'd like to do that as our November patron bonus episode. Seeing as you are a patron, and these are questions for patrons, I'd like to actually take that one. Oh,
so you and I would like step back and like really,
let's create our own promotion.
Put pen to paper on this.
Yeah,
interesting.
So there's a lot of things that I would do different. Writing styles, the level of soap opera versus performance. You know,
I'm sure
there's tons of things that I have to say, and we could spend an hour talking about that. But to give that one justice, I would. Okay. I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah,
Josh.
I'm definitely okay with that because my mind was just spinning. I'm like, oh God, where do I even start?
Yeah.
With that, like, that was going to take me 10 minutes just to think about it. No, okay, all right, yeah. Let's do it. Let's do a whole bonus episode on that.
I know I also owe you patrons, you $10 patrons, the back half of the year of my fantasy booking, which is in the works.
Oh yes, we're so owed that.
Listen, look at how things have turned out. Anyway, we're not going to we don't need to resaddle that horse.
Oh God, you even got the real rock and roller coming back.
See, there we go. So a lot's changed, and I've had to change some things in the way I thought about things, but I'm trying not to.
They gave you shit. They gave you stuff to gloat about. Like WWE even gave you stuff to gloat about. Well, see, Dominic's involved. Finn Balor, real rock and roller. See,
OC called it. Phenomenal ones.
Oh my God.
Josh, I hope you're okay with that. But yeah, Ian, let's put that down. That's going to be the November patron bonus episode. We'll do that question where we create our own promotion. And hey, I'm going to be starting to play, if they ever get it fixed, I'm going to be playing WWE 2K20 on.
Oh God.
And you know, some of that could tie into the storyline that we do in the show, in the universe mode, where we build our own promotion on Twitch as well in the game. So that could be very meta, this question, Josh. So let's see how all of this plays out. But we're going to reserve that one for the November bonus. Hope you're cool with that.
And then December, we may be blessed with your booking.
With the Christmas gift of Nick's second half fantasy booking.
I am going to be so drunk on holiday beer for that episode just to get through it. That's a drunk episode for Ian right there.
Thank you, Josh. Stay tuned on that one for a few more weeks. We'll get that out to you. Next up, Billy. Conspiracy theory time. Ooh, yes.
Ooh, where's my tinfoil hat?
All right, he says Jim Cornette is a crazy old turd. That much is known.
Well,
okay.
call a spade a spade. Yeah, all right. All right.
But he also
I think he'd call himself that too.
he probably would. But he also he'd probably have an F-bomb in there though.
I'm a crazy effing old coot.
Yeah. But he also does a lot of work with indie promotions. He has these weekly rants about, quote, outlaw wrestlers.
Mud wrestlers.
Yeah, mud wrestlers that draw tons of hate.
Mud promotion.
But loads of support for these wrestlers. Does he do this on purpose to get support for these guys and attention, or is he just straight up turd nugget?
I think it depends on the person. I think there's people that he genuinely does not like. He doesn't like their style, and he's against them. And I think there's guys that he's actually doing work for, if you will, like in the old Carney sense of it, where he's making himself the heel to get them over, essentially.
Right.
And I think it's a case by case basis. Like for instance, I genuinely think he and Sami Callihan now have heat. Just because of how that all went down, but I think at first it started as
water in his face.
I think it started as a work and made its way into a shoot.
Yeah.
I think he genuinely doesn't like Kenny Omega's style, and they've had enough sniping back and forth at this point. You have to look at the fact that if Cornette calls them out by name, right? I think he could be possibly. I always you never know because there's so many layers of kayfabe going on,
right?
But I feel like if Cornette is calling someone out by name, then he's smart enough to know that putting their name out there is giving them attention. It's giving them clicks. It's giving them heat. And if he doesn't mention their name, he says those guys over there doing that thing, then it's less so. Now they've gotten him reviewing all of the shows on his podcast right now. Hey, what are your thoughts on the Matt Riddle and Cameron Grimes match? What are your thoughts on the Lucha Brothers versus Private Party match? Like, they've got him watching the shows and weighing in. But with those, a lot of the time, it does feel like he's giving his genuine opinion, and he'll be even-handed on things. Like with Matt Riddle, he's very even-handed about how he talks about the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Where I don't feel like he's putting him over, and I don't feel like he's burying him. But then there's some guys where he'll do his best to not say their name. And I think he's there with Kenny Omega now, where he just doesn't like even saying his name. When it comes to guys who are in promotions he's doing work for, whether that's NWA or MLW or anything else that he's working with, the line is a little bit more blurred, where I've got to look more at how the work he's doing with them in the actual company itself, if he's working heel in that company, and if, how much he's saying their name and in what context. Because here's the thing. Yes, he's a crazy old coot. He's also smart as a whip.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah. Is that he comes off as crazy because he's crotchety. He's cranky, right? That's where his crazy is. Yeah. Is he just has no filter and he's crotchety. But he's also an extremely, extremely smart guy. So I never take anything necessarily at surface level.
I mean, my answer is really simple. I've been around several savants in my life, one for mathematics and physics and one for as a musician.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
Oh, that's awkward. Okay. So I've been, but it's funny how people that have that mental capacity also tend to have some sort of social dynamic issue, whether that's a filter, whether that's a ADHD or something or somewhere on the spectrum, right? But there's a level of just savantness, to just absolute brilliance, whether it's just an encyclopedic memory or an ability to problem solve in a way that nobody else can. I think Jim Cornette is one of those people that just has that encyclopedic savant character trait to him, but he also just has that inability to filter. And nor does he have any desire to.
Zero desire. He's made a lot of his career on his inability to have a filter.
But you put him in front of look at what's happening on NWA Power right now. You put him in front of a microphone, and he's right back to 30 years ago, where he's just calling stuff, and it's high pitch, high action, Jim Cornette, and he's just right back into the saddle, and it's brilliant.
Those boys couldn't whip cream with a chainsaw. He's crazier than a rainbow trout in a car wash.
Just brilliant. And if you've seen the interviews and the specials of his attic, his special like wrestling museum that he's got with original programs dating back to the turn of the 20th century.
That he would save in a fire before his wife.
Right. So I just, oh my God, the amount of knowledge that this guy has just at will. He can just pull all of this stuff, pluck all this stuff out of his head where we have to go look stuff up sometimes. There's a level that I have a theory that I think Jim Cornette's a savant. He's just really
what Jim Cornette has never forgotten?
What?
Jim Cornette has not forgotten where the Midnight Express came from. Just saying. He hasn't.
Okay. Thanks,
no
John.
problem, buddy. Thank you for calling me a savant.
Billy, thank you very much. I appreciate the question. That's a good one. Sean, next up, hits us with a two-parter here. So he says, I'm caring less and less about the main roster shows, probably because Wednesdays have now become so good. That and Hell in a Cell being such hot garbage. They run 2 to 4 shows a year that are irrelevant to stories, such as the Saudi shows and usually 1 or 2 super shows. It makes continuity and storytelling all but impossible, and it's their own fault. Do you guys hold on to any hope, or is this just what the modern product from them is going to be? As in, it is what it is. Pull me back in, guys. Give me some hope. Thanks for being awesome. You give me the only podcast I contribute to, I guess at least WWE gave me that. The feels.
Thank you, brother.
They're hitting me. Thank you, Sean.
It's funny. This is the second time we've had a listener question, and I think 2 or 3 weeks where someone has said, "Pull me back from the ledge" on main roster WWE.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to say the same thing here, which is, no, I'm not going to pull you back. There's so much content out there right now that you can walk away from the main roster if you're not feeling it. And I don't know if you'll feel the loss. You might be like, oh, I wonder what Becky Lynch and Roman Reigns are up to. But, we'll tell you here.
They'll tell you on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook
Digest.
and every friggin' social platform out there.
Bingo. You can always catch like the highlights on YouTube if you need that. But, you do have so many alternatives now. And to answer specifically that question, do we hold any hope? Is this what the modern product is going to be? It's what the modern product has been, and it's going to continue to be. In terms of like the multiple other shows, et cetera, the Saudi shows and so forth, this is what it's going to be until they're forced to do otherwise because they're making so much money doing it.
Yeah.
And until Vince is forced to change, and this is the thing that's been Vince for his entire career, for all of WWE, until he's forced to change, he's going to do what he wants to do.
Vince going to Vince.
Vince going to Vince. And right now, Vince has no reason to not Vince. Now, talk to us in 6 months, because if their ratings are tanking on Fox, then that's going to be rough for them, and Fox moves them to FS1 every Friday instead of prime time, and their contract isn't renewed. Like, that's going to really force them to look hard at themselves. But or AEW starts surging and they start getting beaten. All of their shows, main roster included, start getting beaten by AEW. That's a long way for that happening, but consistently at least, I think. But hey, man, 6 months a year, a lot can happen, and I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility that WWE could continue to just blatantly dig themselves into a hole here and ultimately get off their own legs.
Look at what we had leading up to Mania, and then so it's been about 6 months now, a little over 6 months since WrestleMania. Look what's happened.
But I mean, look back at their product in 2013 to now.
Oh, sure.
Look how much it's changed.
Oh, sure.
It's and not necessarily even for the better. They've shifted some things around, but I think more and more people are getting consistently discontent with it, and to the point where they're driving a lot of people away. They're still they have a pretty core audience that's staying fairly consistent, but it's that top level is just being just kind of what is it, like we use a plane to plane off wood,
right?
they're taking off, it's shaving off a little bit of that every year, and all they need is for like a couple of big hits. Dude, 3,000 people watched them for Raw in the UK this week. That's unbelievable.
Down from like 50,000 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I wonder if that's got to be a fluke. I mean, like you said, the rugby, maybe something. That's got to be something. But it's the kind of thing where if I were them, and they haven't, I use this analogy all the time on the show, Nick. The toad in the boiling water, right? If you drop a toad into boiling water, it'll jump out because it knows it's hot and it doesn't want to, it knows it's going to be hurt if it stays in there.
Yeah.
So it knows it's going to die, so it jumps right out. But if you put the toad in room temperature water and slowly turn up the heat, it'll just sit in there until it's boiled. And I think that's kind of what I'm seeing with WWE, where I'm like, dude, do they not realize how low their ratings have gotten relative to what it was? Counter that, can we even consider that as a metric anymore? Are they seeing metrics that we're not seeing in terms of their online views and their engagements and so forth? And that's what they're banking on now.
Is it a relative shift in viewership that they can make sense of, combining social media viewership and engagement with the network?
Sure, but the counter to that is, what does Fox want? Is Fox okay with having it all be online engagement, or do they need like 3-4 million people on a Friday night watching their show? Because they can't be the 4th rated network on Friday nights. That's not what they paid them $1 billion for.
Right. So
ratings do matter to WWE.
They do. They absolutely do. And ultimately, what we're talking about was what killed the XFL. One of the many things, it was that it just didn't get the ratings, and nobody wanted to do ad buys on it, and So I think we're seeing that kind of happen all over again, this time to Fox instead of NBC. So I'm anxious to see, does this transcend into the XFL 2.0 again? Are we going to do all this same shit over again 20 years later?
Hopefully not as quickly, because XFL died real quick.
Yeah, it did.
Real quick. Yep. All they did was run over into Saturday Night Live once, and they were like, all right, you guys are done.
Yep. I don't have too much to add to that other than, just the reminder that there's a lot of talk happening right now in the business of professional wrestling around ratings. The only people that matters to are those trying to sell ad buys. Now, It can be used as an indicator of, how many eyeballs and what age groups are watching your product. But I think there's a lot of other math and big data that happens behind the scenes in the viewership on the network. How many of you listening right now watch Raw live instead of watching Raw on Hulu the next day, or on the network a few days later, or on the USA app a week later? Those don't count towards these ratings. Or DVR counts towards ratings, because it counts as towards a...
It does?
It does, yes.
I thought if
you DVR it, they count it towards that. But there's a special little asterisk that it's a DVR. It's not a live view.
Right.
Exactly. But it does still count towards the ratings. But how many? I would say we're getting to a point where it's at least 50-50, if not halfway, where people are consuming it in other means than having cable subscriptions. And that's a very real thing to keep in mind. So I want to just rehash that first point. The only people concerned about ratings are those that work in marketing and PR, that are concerned about bringing in money from ad buys. And if those ratings continue to go down, that means that there's not going to be many ad buys, or the value of those ad slots are not going to be as high as they maybe were first perceived. And that's where the business implications start to come into play. It's not going to matter whether or not the content's being consumed in some way, shape, or form. That's all that really contributes to.
Who's watching our ads?
Right. Who's watching that Audi ad that I paid you $500,000 to play twice in that 3-hour spot?
Who potentially is watching it, I think is more the thing.
And NXT's got a compelling position. A successful 55-year-old man that's watching professional wrestling probably has the capacity to buy an Audi. Just as an example, that's the way
that's targeting,
right?
That's just targeting.
That's targeted advertising. So
they would rather target to the 18 to 49. That's why that's the more
totally. And that's
desired
I'm
demo.
giving an example specific to the ratings that we constantly call out and talk about. Right? When they say median age, that's what the ad buyers, such as the people selling or putting the commercials on. That's why we get a lot of I call it old people medicine ads. You'll see that a lot in sports. And it is what it is. It's just targeted advertising based on what those demographics tell people. That is the only thing that matters when it comes to ratings. It can be an indicator, a needle on a dial, but that's all really when it comes to who's consuming the product that you're creating. Sorry for the dissertation and lecture on stuff there, but I want people to keep that in mind because it's constantly talked about.
You're a storyteller, Nick.
Yeah.
You're a storyteller. Yeah.
I want people to just kind of take a deep breath and relax and stop talking about. We highlight the ratings on this show, but when I start seeing it have multiple conversations, we had a conversation that turned awkward in the group this last week over ratings, and there was implications of racism and things like that. I'm like, whoa.
What? I missed that one.
Slow down, guys. The ratings are not that important, right? It's the point I'm trying to make is that it's only for people selling ads. It's not for any of us. That's all.
Right. But ultimately, that has implications for the company.
From a business perspective, it has massive implications on the amount of money they're able to garner from advertisers, and that has implications for Fox as well. So
it has for them, and that for their deal with Fox, for their renewing that
100%.
deal.
And it'll influence decisions based on whether they keep them at prime time on Friday nights on the main network show, single digit channel, or are you going down to channel 400?
Exactly.
Oh, you're going to do a 2-hour Crown Jewel commercial? Yeah, we got the World Series, dude. Piss off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
What? 50 million people are going to watch the World Series. What are you going to do with your 2 million people? Right. So that's the kind of stuff that influences all of those, and I just wanted to put that out there. Sean did follow up with a more positive question. Okay. He says, "I love AEW. It's hitting on all cylinders for my enjoyment. Do you think they'll grow or pretty much settle into these numbers? And what would you guys do to pump those ratings?" So again, more ratings conversation here.
Yeah, but I think we can pretty much hit this
point,
one.
Though. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think right now I'm waiting to see because it's only like 3 weeks in, and the numbers have dropped every week, but that's against the World Series for the most part. I'm waiting to see what they do in November. Do they settle at around 1 million? Do they continue to fall? Do they grow a little bit? What happens next? Because it's hard for me to answer this question on only 3 weeks. You know what I mean? I don't feel like they've settled yet. I don't feel like I know for sure who's going to be there watching them every week. There was certainly a curiosity factor that first week. They got a 1.5 million people to watch, and then now we're down under 1 million. So they obviously big drop off in terms of that. But I think part of what they're going to need to do as far as pumping ratings is what I call water cooler content, where NXT did that wonderfully this week, where they left the show at a point where the next day you go, dude, around the water cooler, you said, hey man, did you watch NXT last night? Finn Balor turned heel, right? Now, again, it's trickier to have that
Spoiler
these
alert.
days. Spoiler alert. It's trickier to have that these days because back in the day, there was no other way to watch the content but on TV. And so you talked about it around the water cooler. Now it's like, you're on the water cooler, you pull out your phone and you show them on your phone.
Right, there's a
Finn
Twitter
turned
clip,
heel on NXT. Right,
that
exactly.
1 million people have retweeted because WWE posted it instead of driving people to the show.
So it doesn't work quite as well. Now you have to have more long-term compelling storylines to get people want to tune in every week. So it's a bit of a different game, but the theory is still there. You need to create TV that people are going to want to come back and watch every week. And if you look at shows like that were hugely popular culturally,
Things in the rafters. We gotta go. We'll see you next week.
I'm talking about right, exactly. But that's water cooler stuff where oh my God, did you see WCW last night? Sting was in the rafters. They had to go out. We have no idea what happens. That doesn't work these days because YouTube clips. But if you look at like some of the biggest cultural shows, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Sopranos, any of those, Lost, whatever. Maybe not Lost. Maybe Lost is a bad example because they're writing. But they grew. They grew an audience every season because more and more people were getting into their stories. More and more people were like, wait, what's happening over there?
Breaking Bad's
That's really
a great
good
example of that. Breaking Bad and House of Lies, I think, were the ones that really kicked off the whole concept of binge watching. When Breaking Bad showed up on Netflix, you can go find this data out there that Netflix shared. There was this catch-up mentality that happened.
Yeah.
And people they were live on TV. They were on like season 5 or 6, but the first 3 seasons showed up on Netflix, and you could just see that it was the top show on Netflix.
Right.
And that catch-up mentality, I think, is what you're alluding to here. The ability to
everyone else is excited about this. I want to get in on it as well.
FOMO.
And it's going to be a little bit different. Yeah, exactly. FOMO. And I think that it's going to be a little bit different. People aren't going to have a fear of missing out with AEW in the same way, because you're not going to go back and rewatch all the old episodes, but you're going to want to catch up in the sense that you're going to, if people get excited enough about the program, it's going to draw in outside people. It's exactly how the Attitude Era worked in terms of getting those big numbers, because more and more people started getting excited about Stone Cold Steve Austin and what's going on that TV, that TV station. What are people excited about? Holy crap, this really is exciting and fun. And more and more people started watching it and becoming engaged in it. And that theory goes for any TV show at any time across ever. That's how it works. So that is what they should be striving for. And unfortunately, WWE is still trying to get moments at this point. They're not going for storylines. They're going for moments. They're shooting for the water cooler YouTube people. Right? Here, check this out on YouTube.
Or
this
Facebook
was something cool.
shares or retweets, right?
Braun Strowman flipped the truck. Boom. There you go. You don't have to know anything else about it. But, 5 million people watch Braun flip a truck.
And in the fast food era of social media, a 1-minute video clip is a lot easier to get engagement on and to gauge interest than it is to see what the ratings were on a 3-hour show on a Monday night.
Sure. But the thing is they're going to have to make the kind of program that people are going to want to tune in for. If we're talking, his question was strictly about ratings.
Yeah.
They're going to have to make a program that people are going to want to tune in for because of the storylines and because they're getting engaged with the characters and they want to see what happens with the characters. Not because, they want to see something big and crazy happen, because you can just watch that and a clip by the water cooler.
But it's what we talked about it on yesterday's show as well, with AEW spreading across 5 or 6 different YouTube series now. They're kind of doing the same thing. So there's a little bit of a flaw here in the assumption that AEW needs to do anything else, because I think that kind of extracurricular or auxiliary stuff that we just kind of talked about WWE doing, AEW has embraced and is doing as well across social media and YouTube. So yeah. I'm not sure. So the question was, do you think they'll grow, or pretty much, I'm assuming you're talking about growing on their viewership on TNT when you asked that, right. Because I think they're growing across the board in all facets, all ways, shapes, and forms. Or are they pretty much going to settle into these numbers, meaning the current roughly 1 million viewers on TNT every week? What would you guys do to goose those ratings or pump those ratings? It's kind of what they did this week. Have some of those bigger moments, goose the ratings, show a big tag match with a finish that you didn't really maybe see coming. Little things like that will not only goose the social media and the water cooler talk, but also just put on a good show.
Yeah, engaging characters, engaging storylines, surprising moments. You're going to want to watch the show because you're going to be entertained for 2 hours.
2 hours of AEW this week, juxtaposed with the 2-hour Crown Jewel commercial I got 2 nights later. You tell me if you had to sit in a room and pick which one of those you wanted to watch, you could only watch one.
Yeah,
it'd be an easy choice. So I think if they continue to learn the lessons of modern era WWE and continue to do the kind of show that AEW is doing now, they're going to do really well, and it'll grow over time. And I don't even want to gauge it not only now during the World Series. You've also got the holidays coming up. I'm looking at this at like a 6 to 12 month run. I want to see at the end of 2020, a year from now, how are we talking about AEW?
Yeah,
right.
And I'm curious. I don't have it in front of me. I forgot to write down and find out how long the TNT contract was for with them. I think they've got a little bit of wiggle room right now. The other thing is, as long as they're going head to head with NXT and winning, they'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
So right now they're crushing NXT in the right demo. So as long as they can go to TNT with that, I think they should be okay for a while.
Agreed. Thank you very much, Sean. That was a really good question. And don't sweat the ratings so much, guys. That's the moral of the story.
Well, come on, Nick. We have to know who's winning. We have to know who's winning. WWE's they lost 30,000 people this week. Oh God, it's the end of the world.
Right.
Sorry.
But there's no context if you don't have any idea of.
We talk about the ratings all the time on this show too, because they are relevant. They are relevant, but it's
We're a news outlet for lack of a better word, right? So I mean, it's our duty to report those. It is what it is.
Duty.
Thank you very much, Sean. Next up, we got the champ, Mr. Andy. Where do you see?
He's got his defense. He's got his defense coming up in 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, get ready.
Oh man,
I want to
brace
see
yourself.
those promos, guys. I want to see you guys cut promos on Andy. That you, especially you patrons, because this is going to be for you guys.
Wow, Nick calling.
We
out
are going to be
people, man.
doing.
Look at this.
Listen, we are going to be doing the patron pick'ems again for Survivor Series. Heads up. So I want to start seeing and hearing how you guys are going to take that title off the champ. The reigning, defending, undisputed BWO Pick'ems champion, Andy Jessup.
Will Jacob get his championship back? That's the question.
Yeah.
Or no, he didn't. No, it was Andy was in the. Who was champ before?
Justice.
It was. That's right. It was Justice.
Stutterer. I know he's gunning to get his championship back.
Oh man, yeah.
So I want to see those promos in the group, guys, and we'll share them all out on Instagram, and I'll have a good time with it over the next month. But yeah, let's go, Andy. Let's have some fun. Andy asks, where do you see all the major U.S. promotions in 10 years? WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, NWA. Do you see them still in operation or extinct? Also, will any other promotions grow to be a major player in the same time period? That's a second question.
10 years.
I want to talk about. I mean, like So again, earlier I was talking about outcomes. Let's rewind the clocks 10 years ago to 2009, where we were.
It was all there was WWE. Like Ring of Honor was like
New Japan, but it was struggling a little bit.
New Japan was just starting to come back
Tanahashi
a bit.
Was resurging.
Yeah, it was about to blow up. Yeah,
and then you had the Bullet Club came in and was like 2012 with Balor.
Yeah, and then
that's where they blew
you
up.
had Ring of Honor was doing some of the best wrestling in the world, and TNA was
WWE had John Cena.
TNA was just on the far end of its golden years. I would say they were starting to do they were starting to become WCW. So yeah, landscape totally shifted. Since that, that was the height of John Cena right around then. 10 years from now, man, here's the problem: is we just underwent such an immense sea change like a month ago, less than a month ago. Yeah. And to try and extrapolate that outwards 10 years, I would say right now is nearly impossible. The metaphorical waters have been completely muddied by everything that's just happened. I would say it's impossible to tell right now how things will settle, just because everything is so up in the air right now. We don't even we've had 3 weeks of AEW. We don't even know where their ratings are going to settle or if they're going to continue to drop. WWE just came out on Fox, and they watched their ratings tumble within the first couple of weeks, but they were also been on FS1 and against the World Series and football and everything else is going on. So it's hard to say right now. I've got to be honest about this. I really have genuinely no idea. If you say a 10-year time span, I want to say that WWE will still be around because they're just too damn big. They're just too damn big. They will still be around in some sense.
And every couple of years, they seem to jump from one cable network to another, whether it's Sci-Fi or USA or
Yeah.
So
obviously, the two vulnerable ones here, Ring of Honor and Impact.
Yeah.
I think Ring of Honor right now
I'm
is
going to
actually
throw AEW in there as well as vulnerable. So.
I don't think AEW's no. AEW's got a lot of momentum. They've got a millionaire behind them. They're killing NXT in the ratings on TNT. I think they are not even touchable.
They're still out
right
there trying
now.
to prove themselves, though. That's what I meant by that.
Absolutely. Ring of Honor, however, is doing absolutely ghastly numbers for its pay-per-views. No one's going to see their shows. They're looking very bad right now. They're losing talent. I think they might lose a couple of big pieces in the next couple of months. Rush might be out by December. Marty might be out in November. They should be scared. Ring of Honor should be very scared right now. Impact, I feel, is doing a lot of good work, but no one's watching it. And I feel like they could be one, now that they're going to be on Access TV, they're one that could actually jump up and do better, but they're also not terribly big right now. They also could be vulnerable. I think Ring of Honor is the most vulnerable right now. Of any of these ones we're talking about, those are the ones I'm like, they might not be here in 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know what NWA will be doing in 10 years. That's really tough to tell too, because they're being so, I guess, humble would be the way I'd put it.
Yeah, an hour
and how
YouTube
they're
series weekly.
an hour free YouTube series weekly. That's it. That's all they're doing. They're shooting it in a studio. They could grow into something. I like the fact that they're back. But yeah, that's really all. That's the only kind of prognosis or prediction I can really make right now. Is Ring of Honor might be gone, Impact might be gone, NWA not sure. WWE will be there. I would if I were a betting man, and I am, but I usually lose. But if I were a betting man, speaking of which, Nick, would you put some money on a roulette table for me later today?
Sure.
Okay. I think that WWE will be around, and honestly, just given what I'm seeing out of AEW, I want to say AEW will be around. But that's after 3 weeks of TV. I don't know. What do you think will still be around in 10 years, Nick?
You know how crazy I can get with stuff like this, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I knew what I was doing when I asked that.
So I want to recap what was going on in the 90s, leading up to what happened in 2001. And we had several things. We had NWA at the start of the 90s. We had WCW coming out. We ended up with Nitro and the Monday Night Wars and all of that stuff. And I think... I'm hoping that all of these people and companies learned from history, because what we saw was a sort of maniacal takeover by one egocentric billionaire over the course of a decade.
He wasn't a billionaire at the time. He made himself a billionaire by doing it.
I understand. Made the crazy decision to take the company public, which I still think is one of the ballsiest moves. You took a wrestling company public. He's done a lot
of ballsy moves, man.
Yeah, he has.
Solid granite rock.
So I'm making little bullet points here because I want people to remember history. I want people to remember what happened when we let one guy have control of everything.
Right.
And what had happened is we ended up with the last 20 years of WWE. And we had TNA and what became Impact, and we had Ring of Honor, and that was kind of cool, but not many people really watched it. And it's mostly been WWE since. Now we are at this inflection point again this month, literally this month, and you could say 2019 in general, with sort of the fall of Ring of Honor, Impact dwindling to an extent, even though they're still doing really good stuff and have really good people over there. And you had the rise of AEW off of last year's All Out bet, right? So now, as of January this year, you had AEW rise. WWE's floundering a little bit, even in the wake of $2 billion deals with both USA and Fox.
You think right now that they're floundering? Is that the word you'd want to use for them right now?
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know another word. Another word's not coming to mind. They're definitely AEW feels like there's been a plan. It feels like they're executing on a plan.
Yes.
WWE, there's no plan. The benefit of WWE is that they do have that guy that was the maniacal leader that took them the distance.
Sure.
And everybody still gives him that vote of confidence internally, because look at what he did 20 years ago. He saved wrestling, quote unquote.
Because
depending
of
on your
syndrome.
perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I'm definitely doing air quotes when I say saved wrestling. But at the end of the day, that's what we've had. So if we want to, with the rise of the XFL, him getting older, not getting younger, but still looks like perpetually going to be at the head of the chair or head at the table for WWE. This is an interesting inflection point for me, whether it's 2019 or even this month, with everything going to different networks and AEW officially starting, NWA officially starting, all of this stuff happening literally right now. There's no way to judge the short term. But if we look at this 10 years out, I hope everybody remembers the lessons of history. So 10 years looking out, could Tony Khan be the next Vince McMahon?
No.
Hey, I'm not talking about personality-wise. I'm talking about from a business dealings perspective. Could Tony Khan pull some moves with all the money that they've got and the influence in the entertainment industry with the Jaguars and other ventures that they have, commercial real estate, all kinds of ventures that they got going on? Could he make some ballsy moves like what Vince made in the late 90s and early 2000s? Maybe. So I mentioned, you guys might have heard me mention yesterday that AEW could go up and say, how many zeros Impact do I need to put on the check?
Yeah.
Stuff like that is what I think about when I think of big picture 10-year plans. I'm thinking of stuff like that where you can build an empire, because that's what you need to do. That's what Vince did, and that's what AEW is going to need to do.
Well, they're going to need some serious grit then, because one of the things that made Vince was his. When it's business, man, that guy is ruthless,
right?
Absolutely ruthless.
And you have to have that as a CEO. You absolutely.
Yeah,
there has to be some compassion there to an extent, but at the same time, as a businessman, you have to be all in.
I don't know if I feel that from Tony Khan and the AEW guys. I don't know if they have that.
But I'm saying over the course of 10 years, since to Andy's question, I want to see if Tony Khan can pull off some of the same moves that Vince did in the 90s that got him to where he and WWE are today.
They would have to. They would have to survive. Yeah. I agree. So
great question.
Going to a very, very interesting 10 years, I'll tell you what. Yeah. I'll tell you what.
Last but certainly not least, Mr. Patrick snuck his in here at the last minute. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you guys for being awesome patrons, too, if I don't say that enough. Patrick asks, scenario, Sir Ian Dangerous.
Okay. All right.
You're getting married. Well, okay, this got weird all of a sudden. Hang on.
This is a fantasy.
Right. Scenario, you're getting married and you need 5 groomsmen and someone to officiate. Which wrestlers, past or present, would you pick to be your groomsman and the officiant?
Oh, God.
Well, I'm definitely having the Fink announce everybody as they come down the aisle. Now entering the ceremony.
Now entering the square circle. And by that, I mean the church walkway. Nicholas Ho! Get well, Fink. I know he's not doing well right now.
I don't know. Do you have any that are off the top of your head here? Groomsmen, and who would officiate Sir Ian Dangerous's wedding?
So, this is hard. I mean, my first thought would be dudes that are going to throw me a hell of a bachelor party. And so right off the bat, I've got to go. I mean, this is just because off the top of my head, you know, you have to have a little bit of the bubbly. So Chris Jericho would have to be there. I know I'd want someone to bring the beers, so Stone Cold Steve Austin. So right there, okay, got champagne and beer covered. Illicit substances, Razor Ramon. Okay, let's say prime era Razor Ramon would have to be there. Scott Hall, like in his prime.
Yeah. Hey, yo.
So that's that. Here comes the bad guy. Let's see. I'll throw in Kazuchika Okada just so I can have someone throw money around. I don't know why I picked that. I don't know.
He seems like the good guy that would tell on everybody.
He seems like a good dude.
Well, he
why
also
not?
seems like the
Kazuchika Okada.
tattletale. You know, he's the goody two-shoe that would tell on everybody.
He is what? He is not. He's a total. His character's a playboy, rich, throwing money. I don't care kind of dude. He's like a young Ric Flair. Ric Flair. There's the other one. Ric Flair. Ric Flair would be number 5. There's a lineup. Stone Cold, Jericho, Razor Ramon, Ric Flair, and Kazuchika Okada would be my groomsmen. There's a lineup. That's going to be a party of a wedding, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be a party. As far as the officiator, this one is the most clear for me. James Mitchell. The sinister minister. Come on. It's got to be him. Red guy.
I'm going to go Mike Chioda as the official.
Oh, God.
Because I
want
somebody that is like overly animated.
He'd take it so seriously, though.
He would. I want him to give a 3 count as I kiss the bride. You know, that all kinds of fun stuff like that. And then maybe I pull out right before. Pull back.
Wait,
not
what?
pull out. Sorry,
well, we're not talking
that
about
got really weird all of a sudden.
Man. Whoa!
Maybe I pull back and he throws up a 2, and everybody in the crowd goes 2, 3. Just fun stuff like that. I want overly animated, overly dramatic Mike Chioda officiating. For mine, it's very obviously going to be Ric Flair, because beers. And just his animated personality.
Everything.
I want him to just woo the entire ceremony. I'm gonna.
You'd get a limo. You'd get a jet. You'd get Gator shoes.
Yeah,
it'd be a hell of a wedding.
I think I'm gonna have. I'm torn between John Cena and Ric Flair as the stylists, but it's probably gonna lean toward. Flair's gonna bring the booze. Cena's gonna choose our outfits. Cena's gonna choose our.
Cena is gonna choose your outfits.
Yeah,
so you're all gonna be dressed
Cena's
in shorts.
Ring gear, but I mean, if you see the dude outside of wrestling, is one of him and Rock are two of the most well dressed dudes in the world.
Are you out of your mind? Nick Aldis right now is probably the best dressed guy in wrestling.
That is a fair point. I'm still gonna stick with Cena.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna have
terrible.
I've got to have The Rock, and I've got to have Stone Cold. And that's for who's my outlier?
Why? Just because you like them? I like them. They have to be in the mark.
Because I'm an Attitude Era mark. If nothing else,
that's as long as we're clear on that.
Yeah. And I think we've been pretty clear about that this whole show. I'm trying to. The fifth one I'm struggling with, and I'm trying to think of someone that had an influence on me as a fan.
Don't hurt yourself.
I'm struggling.
This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be fun, man.
My gut wants to say Daniel Bryan, but I don't agree with all of the stuff that he believes in.
No, come on, man. You wouldn't be able to serve meat at your wedding.
Right. No,
you wouldn't. Everyone would have to get there in electric limos. That would be no
chicken.
fun.
You don't eat red meat, you're not invited.
Jesus.
I'm seriously. You should have seen the steak I ate last night.
We're gonna have a cow, and everyone's just gonna tear off a piece.
You know what? Otis Dozovich is in charge of catering. There we go.
Oh no, everyone's gonna have protein shakes for dinner.
Yep,
with his special added ingredient
with bone-in 35-ounce ribeyes.
Oh, steaks and weights.
Yep.
Oh man,
there we go.
Yeah, you'd have some damn good steaks if you got those boys working your wedding. That's for sure. Good point.
Oh man, so there you go, guys. We all have our fans. We all have people that we are fans of, I should say.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And there's people that I think all of those guys I was trying to think of people I just want to hang out with. And like you said, throw a really bomb bachelor party. And who would I be okay hanging around for an hour while Mike Chioda over dramatically officiated a wedding and read the vows and all that stuff? I think that's the group of people I'd want to hang out with, especially at the bachelor party, but at the reception as well. They'd all be out there dancing. They'd all be out there drinking and having a good time.
Make sure you don't invite Hanson from War Machine, because I think they might. I wouldn't want him to accidentally get married to your future bride instead of you because they mistook him for you.
Right.
That would be awkward.
That would be very awkward.
Don't invite him.
For sure.
Don't invite him.
No.
Yeah. No.
Thank you, Patrick. That's a fun question. Those are the kinds of weird things that we like. Thank you very much for that. He also asked, do you have any tips or advice for someone who might want to start doing a podcast?
Oh.
Thank you for all the great content and everything you guys do every week to bring us this gold to our eye and ear holes. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Tips or advice, someone who might start doing a podcast, just do it. I mean,
yeah.
Don't overthink it. Nick has a lot because he's the tech guy.
Well, I have a lot because I've been doing podcasting since 2011. And for almost 10 years now, several different, whether it was in tech or whether it was TV and movies or whether it was wrestling or story and narration, serial episodic kind of stuff as a voiceover artist. I've done all of those. And make sure, right now, I'll throw some stats at you guys, just so you know. Just recently, Apple crested 750,000 podcasts in total. Now, this one's going to blow your mind if that one didn't. Only 35% of those 750,000 had an episode published in the last 90 days. What's happening right now in podcasting is something, it's just oversaturation. And it's one of the reasons that we wanted to branch out to YouTube. It's one of the reasons that we wanted, or to expand. It's one of the reasons that I personally wanted to build a presence on Twitch, playing the game and hanging out with you guys. Live streaming is sort of the next iteration or epoch shift in content creation around what podcasting did for that stuff. The technology is now advanced to the point that the consumer can spend a couple of $100 and become a live streamer. And we're already starting to see an oversaturation in live streaming as well. So the point I'm trying to make is that spend some time, plan, make sure you have identified your audience. One of the shows we launched recently, I'll do a quick aside just to give a concrete example. We launched a new show recently called Swiping Up at Orbital Jigsaw. And it is 3 girls that talk about Instagram influencers, and they give all their great stuff. The brilliant way that they launched their show was that they built an Instagram audience first. And if I could give one tip to anybody out there that wanted to start a podcast, it would be try to build an audience first. The hardest thing about creating content is the heartbreak in nobody seeing or listening to your content. And when you spend all this time and effort and money creating something, building something, it can be a little bit heartbreaking and defeating when you don't have a follower. We're blessed with all of you wonderful patrons and all of our fans that are out there listening to this.
Yeah, we're a bit of a fluke because we found our audience the traditional way. Where
we did.
You know, and what's funny is we almost kind of got lucky because we've had a lot of people kind of stumble onto us, but
because of that quote other show.
Yeah, which we didn't even realize existed.
No. For the record, guys, we had no idea that thing existed when we created this one.
Yeah, we just searched podcasts. We didn't search Siri, or what is it? What are they on? Sirius shows?
XM or whatever the hell.
Yeah. So whatever. At any rate, it is what it is now. But at the end of the day, like for the audience that we have, like we have a pretty large audience at this point. Obviously, relatively speaking, we have a long way to go, but we're doing really well. And that's just, I honestly feel like kind of luck, like given the number of podcasts that I see go out there and just kind of, no one finds them. No one really listens to them.
And the ultimate result of that is a phenomenon we call pod fading. At a certain point, you just feel defeated. Nobody's listening. Why are you even bothering? And that's why a lot of podcasts don't make it past episode 10 or 20.
Yeah.
And here we are 3 years in, 169, 70 episodes now. And we feel like as content creators, we're really just getting started. We've been blessed with this resurgence in professional wrestling that has happened just this month.
That also helped.
And it definitely helped, but it also encouraged us to do more. And you guys' support and encouragement also played into that in a big way. So thank you for that. But the phenomenon of pod fading is real. It's the reason that there's 750,000 shows out there that if you look at them, haven't posted an episode since 2016.
And I think that if we're looking, to give Patrick ideas or anybody listening to this ideas on if you're starting a podcast, one of the things, yes, build your audience however you can, preferably before you start the show, like while you're planning out the show, start building the audience. Start building it now while you're getting it going. Once it's going, continue to build your audience. Don't assume by putting out a podcast people will automatically listen.
It's a lot of work.
But then beyond that is consistency.
Yeah.
If you set yourself a goal to do one podcast a month, one podcast a week, whatever it is, consistency. And that's one thing, Nick, that like here we are, like we couldn't get our YouTube channel to work this week because of, you're in the Mandalay Bay and they their internet isn't up to snuff, but we still got to we still got to do the show. Show's still got to happen. And that prioritization, I think, is something that a lot of podcasts need to have, where the consistency of content needs to be there. So be prepared to have that be a schedule going forward if you're going to start one.
Even with your day job, even with all that stuff, even with me traveling to Vegas, the show must go on, right? So there's contingencies and planning and social sharing and building audiences and things like that. So my advice that I've learned is, number one, be patient. Number two, what Ian just said, consistency and cadence. And number three, focus on the people that support you. Ignore the people that troll you, that give you negative reviews.
Don't listen to the haters.
Don't listen to the haters.
Don't listen to the haters.
They're a very real part of podcasting. There are people that are just miserable folks that go out of their way to tell you how bad you are and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just, you just shrug it off. You know, I've dealt with so much of that throughout my career and through podcasting and through online engagement and being a public figure.
Even on this show when I talk shit to you.
Yeah. It's just, it is what it is.
Sometimes Nick just has to ignore me and we'd move forward.
Yeah. Even though we both know I'm wrong, part of this, in full disclosure, part of this is playing a character, playing a part. And even we have our own level of kayfabe. here
Nick,
at Busted Wide
kayfabe.
Open.
No, hey, kayfabe.
I'm sorry.
buddy. Kayfabe. What are you doing?
Kayfabe died like in 92, right?
You're going to die. You keep this up.
Be patient.
I will
Focus
come
on your
through this
content.
microphone.
It don't assume that if you build it, they will come. There is real work involved. There is polishing of graphics. There is social media sharing, all the different accounts and the management. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes for really successful shows. And we've been able to do that ourselves. But it's really gotten, there's a certain point where you start to hire people to do that, just to be able to deliver more stuff, because there's only so many hours in the day. So
Yeah.
in the beginning, focus on
how much time do you have to dedicate to it? Like that's because that is a very real thing. You know, we have other friends who do podcasts as well to varying degrees of success, and some of them literally it's all they do. They wake up in the morning and they do stuff for their podcast. They go to sleep at night after having done stuff for their podcast all day long. Other people literally have 2-3 hours a week that they spend on it, and they do what they can do. So it's just a matter of how much time you can invest on it.
Set very real expectations for yourself.
Realistic expectations.
That's a great word. Yeah, realistic expectations of how much you want to invest in it as well. We could talk about it. I could talk about podcasting and all that.
Yeah,
stuff
we could do a
for
whole
hours.
episode just on the experience of podcasting, because it's
lessons
certainly
learned, you know.
Yeah, the less right. I mean,
I wish we started
we actually
YouTube sooner,
one of our
you know?
one of our listeners, Andy Jessup, the champ, actually started his own podcast called The Mark, and you know, just in the few episodes he's had out so far, I know he's learned a lot of lessons, and you know, he's gotten better in those few episodes. Like that's just how podcasting works. Is sometimes you just have to go and just do it to learn what you need to learn personally about it, because there's some things we can't tell you because we don't know. You know, and sometimes it's just you have to go and do it yourself.
If you have questions and you want to research some stuff, or you want to look into the strifes, the daily strifes that people have, there's a great Facebook group called Podcast Movement Community, and there's about 26,000 other podcasters in there that they post mostly the same questions every other day, and it's what mic to use and how do I do this and how do I do that, and it's a very, very helpful community that I'm a part of. I engage in as well, and we try to help and usher in new podcasters to come along and be the idea is just being content creators. You know, if you just want to be a content creator, that's a mindset that you have to get into.
It really is, man. Like it's actually crazy in the last few years the way that my mind has had to shift from the way I used to schedule things in my life to now that I'm on this regular content creation schedule. It's wild. It's weird, man. It's weird. So anyway, Nick, yeah, like you said, we could talk about this for hours, but we don't have hours. This is just one show.
Yes, it is.
And I know you have to go do some fun stuff in Vegas. So,
but if by fun stuff you mean work, yes, I do have to go do that.
It was a quotations,
air quotes, right?
Yes.
Well, guys, thank you very much for this. I hope you're enjoying the new Patron Mailbag series. I know we're having a blast being able to spend more time on it, but this video will go up on YouTube eventually, so that you guys on YouTube will be able to see it as well. It'll just be a banner graphic with some audio, but it's still up there for consistency, right? Just what we were preaching about. Hey! But this will definitely be in the feed for you guys as well. And be sure and enjoy the episode 169 that went up there. Sorry that was a little bit late, but thank you guys for being patient with it as I am hitting some unexpected road bumps here in Vegas this week. But come join us in Facebook. Just search for Busted Wide Open, and you can like our page and join our discussion group, which is kind of the hub of our operation over there. And be sure to click on that link to join the Discord community for all the live chats and conversations that go on throughout the week and at pay-per-views. That's where all that spoilerific kind of content is, and you can engage with each other and have chats and us as shows are happening throughout the week. So be sure and join us over in our Discord community. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/bustedwideopen. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you get alerted anytime I schedule new live events for our live streams. And any new videos we might put up, you'll get a nice reminder and notification that we put up some new content. youtube.com/bustedwideopen. We're on the race to 1,000 subscribers, so you guys can help us get there. Last but certainly not least, the reason that we have this Patron mailbag is because of you, patrons. Thank you very much for sending in all your great questions every single week. We're very happy to put out this special dedicated series just for you guys, and not bury it at the end of the show under listener questions like we did for so long. It's time to highlight you guys, and this show is for all of you. So thank you very much for your contributions. If you'd like to get in on some of that and contribute your questions every single week for just $5 a month, you can head over to patreon.com/BWO. Sign up for one of those reward tiers. And yes, if you missed out on it, patrons, since this show is for you, you definitely want to go and hit the October bonus episode, because that one was a special surprise that we finally decided to share with you guys from last year around Lucha Underground, an opportunity that we had. So make sure you read all the text and get the full story and enjoy the episode recapping Season 1 of Lucha Underground. And I guess now for November, we're going to be doing Josh's
I guess we know what we're going to do.
Yep. So hang on, Josh. We'll get back to you in November on that one with a full bonus episode. But guys, thank you very much for all your support over at patreon.com/BWO. My name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at Data Center Dude.
And I am Surrey and Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Surrey and Dangerous.
But my God!
Would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.